All right, well, good afternoon, or evening, or morning, whatever time it is when you're viewing this. I'm glad that you chose to watch this. This will hopefully be a good help to you as you move forward after the very first round here of CapSim in the practice round. Now that it's Wednesday afternoon, about 3 o'clock or so here in Texas. I was able to have the opportunity to just take a small break in the work that I am doing in order to share this with you. I'm not able to do it every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, but certainly every week I do want to, after each round, I do want to do a debrief and share with you some of the things that I saw. It just so happens that I had a little bit of extra time here in the afternoon, so I can get it to you earlier than what I might otherwise. And I'm glad, because this is the first round, and hopefully you can use it. Your next decisions are due on Friday at noon Mountain Time, so you have about 2 days from the time of this recording to go in and make some changes. Okay, so let's take a look at first. Let's just look and see where we all were when in terms of sales, profitability, contribution margin, even in the key. Let's take a look and see where things are in one. Now, when I show this to you, what you're going to see is that some teams certainly did better than others in terms of their overall performance. With that said, I think every team, regardless of what is shown on here, did very well in some areas, and I need to improve in some other areas. And so even the company that might have the highest sales, that might just seem to be head and shoulders above everybody else, there still are some things that could have been done and should have been done differently. So to this fast track report that you have the competitive. Okay, so looking at it, $40 million in sales, and so you expect to grow by about 20%. Erie and Ferris weren't that far behind. Digby didn't take a drop, but moderate growth. And then Andrews actually decreased in sales a little bit, and I will show you why that was, and actually how Andrews was actually very close to probably dominating at this point. But even for Andrews, who you see a lot of negatives on there, a lot of low numbers, they're actually in a very good position should they choose to make the choices that are necessary. If you look at contribution margin, right now everybody started out at about 20%. There was where you want to be is around 30%. It's going to take about a round or two to get up to 30%, but Digby and Ferris are certainly close, moving in the right direction. Again, Baldwin and Chester, slight increase, and Andrews went way down. And it's all tied back to the same reason, which I'll get to here in just a minute. A sign of your borrowing power, or the strength of what you're able to borrow, the interest rates you get, and things like that. Fairly healthy in terms of their increases. I think we can look at some of the financing decisions of all the companies and talk about that now. Okay, one of the things that stands out to me here, looking at Andrews, is and Ferris, is paying out dividends. If you have money on hand, if you have that available at this point in the competition, if you have money to spend, there's other places where your money could have been better spent, mainly in the areas of plant improvement, whether it be through expansion or through automation. And so that would have been a better use of that money there. Also, for Andrews, selling or issuing more stock, yes, it brought money in, but then turning around and sending that money right back out through payment of dividends, or through paying off debt, again, not necessary, and so that money could have been used for other things. I want to point to is we made some, however, is it looks like Digby did not finance their improvements at all, and so they relied on their own cash from operations to finance those activities. And I think Digby got lucky in that they didn't run out of money because of that. Had that happened, there would have been an emergency loan that was issued. The interest rate would have been high, and it would have been a much worse situation. And so, looking at cash on hand, certainly Andrews and Baldwin and Erie and Ferris are in good shape. Chester looks like made some pretty big improvements to their plant, and so even now they're they certainly took a hit in their cash on hand, but it looks like they might be someone to look out for here in the next rounds, because they have made some improvements either in automation and or in developing some new products that are expanding in that way. One of the areas also to look at in terms of plant utilization, you want to be around this right here when using both your first and second shift pretty well. You aren't losing money. You don't have employees sitting around, and for the most part, it wasn't horrible, but there was certainly some wasted productivity from Andrews and Baker and Days, from the other industries there with these products that were developed for Andrews and Baldwin, Chester, or Andrew, Baldwin, Digby, Erie, and Ferris. Chester did well in terms of utilizing their plant. You can see automation in the next round. It looks like everybody made some improvements, or at least some changes. It costs money to make changes to automation, and so whether you're trying to sell off your product, and perhaps that's why you lowered your automation, because you figured they're going to sell off your product, and so you don't need all that automation. But what you did essentially there was have your workers work harder, and you need more workers to get the job done. And so if you wanted to sell off Able, if that's what you're doing, you could have kept the automation where it was, and then invested that money that you were saving by not producing any more of Able, and invested that in a new product or in automation. So just something to look out for. There's no need to reduce your automation. And as a competitor, you can look at this and you can see who's you as well. Okay, now here's where we start to see contribution margin, $27. But if you're at about $12, which was relatively low with everybody else, so you have about $12 plus about $11 in labor costs, so it's about $23. You're selling it for $27, which means every product that you sell, you're only making $4 per unit sold. And if you compare that to, say, Baker, for the Baker product, it's about $26 cost at $35 that you're selling it for. So with Baker, it's about $9 per unit sold. For if you decide you want to lower your price, you need to look at some other ways to reduce your material cost or reduce your labor cost, and then you can get away with selling a product for less amount because it'll generate more profit. You'll have a higher contribution margin. Now also with Able, and this is one of the what I was talking about in terms of what Able did well. I think Able had their product priced at a good point if they were just able to find a way to reduce their costs, to make it where it didn't cost so much to make it. Because if you look and see this chart, I think is very telling, and I like to look at this to see how it could have been off the charts, if you will, but they weren't able to sell all that they could because they stocked out. So the projections weren't where they needed to be, and so as a result, all these other companies, Baldwin, Chester, Digby, Erie, and Ferris, got more share than they deserved. So their product wasn't as well received in the market. But once Andrews was out, then the marketplace was forced to go elsewhere. And so I think Andrews would have had much higher sales, and the other companies would have had lower sales had the projections been, or had they been able to produce product that was more accurate, more telling of how the market actually was. So working on your forecasting, looking for ways to improve your forecasting. Stocked out, Baker stocked out, Eat stocked out. For accessibility, it's fairly high for Able. Their awareness is high also. They put $4 million in promotion and sales. Everybody else was lower. And so even though for Cake, the promotion budget and the sales budget were at the highest, it certainly made a slight difference in customer awareness, but not that much different than Able. So that extra $1 million didn't really earn a huge increase in awareness. It helped a little bit with accessibility, but it didn't do much for customer satisfaction. And so Able going forward is probably in a good position in terms of their customer awareness for the Able product. For everybody, adjustments should be made, or at least consider making adjustments for what the customers need in the next round. And if you look at the industry leaders, both in high tech and low tech, for the high tech segment, just because of how the product is positioned. Sorry, it's positioned. Something else to look at. If you look down here at the high-tech market, the there's an opportunity in the high-tech market. There, now this just started. We're only in the first round, but the high-tech industry is not meeting the customer demand. There was in the high-tech market than what the companies were able to deliver. So there's opportunities to consider going forward, increasing your production of your high-tech product if you think that you have what it takes with your current product with a few small revisions, or to develop a new product to perhaps capture the demand there as well. So as you can see here, there's potential and the actual. And so just take a look at that for all of the industries and get a sense of where you might be able to improve going forward in the next round. Okay, now in the next round, your the HR module will open, and so you'll be able to make some changes there in terms of training. Let me go up into Erie. You should always launch the web spreadsheet. If you download the Excel spreadsheet, you can still enter the numbers, but there's no recalculate button. There's no opportunity to get a sense. Okay. Okay, so going forward in the next round, you can certainly look at this as well. Look at what it's going to take. You'll also be able to make some improvements around TQM, total quality management, which will make your plan to make your operations. Okay. Exit out of here. If you have any questions based on what I said, or if you have any questions about your team specifically, some strategies, other things you might want to consider, let me know. I hope this was helpful to at least see where things are, see what you should look at, and good luck going forward. I'm interested to see what's going to happen.